And welcome back. We have with us the top brass of the Public Service Union, fresh off their success at the recent AGM and elections. We have the president of the Public Service Union, Mr. Gerald Henry, with us, and we also have his first vice president, Dean Flowers. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Now, I assume that when you guys ran, there was a platform. You had a clear vision of what you sold would be your term. Could you share with us what your vision, which it might be the same as Ms. Obermeyer's, or it might have some little adjustments, but what was your vision coming in that you sold to say, under my presidency, in my administration, this is the direction that we are going to take?
Right. Well, with regards to my my campaign, it was based on getting back the union powerful, meaning that we're going to be working with membership, building the membership. With more membership comes more power, of course, more lobbying power, and so that is one of the main things, and then also the stability of the union, right? Because we have issues with regards to our internal regulations and so on, the constitution and so on, that people want to know about, want us to strengthen.
Yeah.
Right? If our internal mechanism is weak, then basically the union itself is going to be weak. We don't have a sense of direction.
Yeah.
And so it was important that we have that sense of direction. And so that was one of my main issues as well.
Yeah.
And the unified position of the union, right? Because if we're not unified, then we can't really move forward together, right? And if we have division, then that reduces our power, right? So that was the main thing that in terms of my campaign, no?
Which one of those issues you feel resonated the most with people there?
I feel that the unified, the unity, right? I think that probably because there was a division that was happening within the union, and so people didn't appreciate that too much. And,
a division along what lines? Be specific. Race? Was it politics? What was the divide?
Yeah, there was some coming off that issue with Brother Neil, right, where there was that ethnic issue, right, and so that was basically where it stood, right, and but my coming in, especially considering the fact that my wife is Garifuna, right, of course that took away everything, you know, from everyone, that it can be a divide with me, right, along those lines, especially, you know, so so that was one of the things that I'm hoping, you know, that will continue to heal the union, right, as we go forward.
What was your primary drive individually to want to be a part of the leadership of this union?
I guess that's for me, since I'm the president right now, but my primary drive is to ensure that our membership is well represented, especially with regards to our grievances. Yeah. Right? I have personal experience with regards to my issues, you know, throughout the public service, especially in the most recent years. And so I was driven, you know, to ensure that, especially my children coming up, that they don't have to go through issues that we are facing right now. Yeah. Right?
And for you?
Well, before I answer that question, just to speak to the first question that you posed, it's important that I mention that not every post was up for election this year. We staggered the executive, and myself, I was elected last year. Yes, continuity. So this year we only had 5 vacant posts, and that was the post of president, second vice president, general secretary, and 2 councillors. And so myself, I'm a returning executive as the first vice president. My term comes to an end next year, and so my post will be up for election. So it's not that we're both newly elected. So we do a 5-5, along with the 3 trustees who are also elected who will also be elected during my term. In terms of the driving force, for me, I think it's realizing that there's a lot of fear in the public service. A lot of fear. The service has been politically manipulated for the worst. And I realized that people are looking looking for others to lead them. And I may not be the best leader, but I think that once you know your rights, once you know that you're operating within the confines of the public service regulations, then you're able to speak out on issue and stand up and be a voice for those who are afraid to stand for themselves, because like I said, I think politics has overtaken the service and to the detriment of us all. Yeah. And so I saw myself as someone who I'm no hero, but I'm also not a coward. And so I said, you know what, an opportunity exists for me to step up and to help where I can, because obviously I can't be the savior for all.
You know, by nature of what you do as public servants, it's a very noble profession. And I do have to say that in general, people are extremely critical of the public service. It would be because you are usually people that we interface with anytime we go into a governmental system. And when there are issues of corruption, people look at the public servants themselves and say, well, why did you do it? People seem to be more accepting of recognizing that a politician will be a politician. But when they see or hear of public servants' involvements and they say, well, why didn't anybody speak up? Why didn't anybody go to their union or stop the buck at them and flag the issue? So you have such a critical role with high expectations from the public, but what seems to me perhaps, and you keep on saying it, a manifestation of fear that's taken over. How do you, in your new leadership capacity, start to make that shift away from where we are today to your general union recognizing the role, the critical role that they play in the system?
Right. The main approach would be that to let them know that the union is there for them now, right? And basically to alleviate some of that fear, because it is like what Brother Dean said, it's extremely difficult, right? And the problem is that we have different types of public officers now, right? We have the true public officers who came up through, the ranks and came into the system the proper way, right? Mostly, of course, the older of the public officers, such as myself. I've been a public officer for 26 years now. And then now you have the new breed, if you want to call it that, of public officers who are coming into the system by way of political appointment, right? And what it does, it creates a huge the problem with regards to how the older public officers approach and deal with these younger public officers, because they come in with an attitude, right? And then they come in with, the minister has my back, right? And so but the union is there for them, right? We are going to make sure that we do all we can to protect those who decide to take a stand, such as myself and Brother Dean.
Over the years, even through the NTUCB, we've heard more and more of political infiltration in unions, from the individual unions themselves, and then also in the larger umbrella organization of the NTUCB. We've had the president say it for himself. You see in meetings where in making decisions, it is very clear that there is a political influence involved. Right. And that doesn't mean government, it could be opposition, it could be whatever. But simply, they're not representing them unions, but representing a political party. It's a serious problem, because if you are really to represent your people, you have to ensure that you are looking after their greater good. What's your thoughts on being able to change that specific culture and ensuring that that is not something that that you will be accused of during your time?
Well, the main approach is to ensure that we remain focused on our members. Yeah. Right. I think that once you ensure that is where your concentration lies, and regardless of what influences might be coming your way in terms of the political, and one of the worst enemies is the enemy within, right? And sometimes it's difficult to identify that enemy, because some of them are extremely slick, right? But once we identify, then you go through a process of isolating and so on, and trying to to keep them away from influential positions, right? And the impact that they can have.
My question is, how do you practically do that? How do you practically, I'm going back to your last response, which is to say that the union has to protect those people against the political interference. But how do you practically do that? What is your plan? Are you going to hire more attorneys? Are you going to increase financial support so that, do you strategically have an identifiable roadmap to say, okay, we're going to do this first, then that, in addition to this, what is exactly your roadmap? Because we can say protect,
right.
and it can just be rhetoric. But how do you practically hope to do that protection?
Yeah.
And to change what is happening now, which is very powerful.
Yes, okay. Well,
I think one of the first things that needs to happen is that as a union, we need to look at the hiring practices in the public service. I think that we've dropped the ball where that is concerned, and we've allowed the political directorate to not only influence how that is done, but they've pretty much taken control of that.
But aren't there regulations as to how these hirings and firings should take place?
They are. Unfortunately, it's not being respected, and unfortunately, the ministry responsible for that, which is the Ministry of Public Service, has also yielded to the political directorate. And so it is that supervisors, head of departments are showing up at work with individuals seated in the hallway reporting for work. Now, how do you come to work as a head of department and meet somebody or a couple people waiting on you to be placed at a desk for a position that you never did advertise, for a position that is not available, for a position
that may not exist?
Exactly. And so, but yet as head of departments, as supervisors, we've become accepting of this type of behavior by the political directorate. And the union, over the years, unfortunately, and I cannot speak for how we got here, this is just something that we have to deal with. The union did not address that in an aggressive manner. And so I think that how do we change the behavior, the fear culture, is that we have to look at how are people hired. There are regulations, but they were not being respected, and we have to see how we can pull together as a union to put a stop to how that is.
Assuming that is the reality, it seems that it's a little bit outside of your control, because, I mean, the minister will do what the minister wants to do. And I'm talking about from now until the end of time. 2021 is going to be happening as well. But what should the public service have done? When you see somebody else, should you say, well, I'm not giving you any work, I'm going to go to the union, I'm going to go on strike? What should they have done? And what will be the approach when it happens tomorrow?
Well, my approach is to use our resources within the public service. We have lawyers, especially within the public service, and to me, I think we can, if they are not also partisan, of course, right, that we can use those talents to help us to protect our members, because it's going to be extremely expensive, and the day will come, hopefully not, but from what I'm seeing, that the day will eventually come whereby we will have to go to the court. We won't have any protection, as Brother Dean said, from, for example, the Ministry of the Public Service, who are supposed to be the vanguard of the regulations and so on. Right? But and I have personal experience with it as well. They break the regulation from the very first line right through to the end of the regulation. And so we need to have legal or illegal people within the union. And if we can also strengthen our members by sending them to training and so on, to get that legal training and come back and defend our members.
Now, I hear what you're saying, and I think that it is a very realistic situation. Perhaps we can't quantify it at this moment, but anecdotally speaking to people, we know these types of situations take place.
Right.
And the regulations are very clear as to what would typically be done. You can go to your union, you can, I don't mean protest as in protest in the street, but make note of breach of protocol in how things were done. But I think we're missing the larger issue here, and I'm sure that's perhaps one of your challenges as the public service union. which is the fear of political victimization. We're not just talking now about influence coming from the minister alone. You're talking about the minister's sister or, you know, wife or cousin also having influence in, or political families in general also having influence. And while perhaps if you stick to the code of the regulations, you know, you can't be fired for speaking up, but you could also be moved to Halakte in the middle of a school semester. And uprooted from your own life. So it may not be losing your job, but nobody wants to be put to a menial task, desk work when they're usually out in the field or whatever the transfer or change is.
Right.
So there's a level of confidence that your members has to build in your union so that that political victimization or fear of repercussion is minimal compared to what they know their union is capable of doing. How do you get there?
Yeah.
You laugh.
Yeah, I'm
I'm
laughing
far
because
off from the truth.
no, you are on point. One of the strategies that I think the politicians have resorted to is that a lot more people are now open vote workers. So the protection guaranteed to them under the public service regulation is kind of removed, and that is whereby that control takes place. And so even in getting people to join the union, even in getting people to speak out when corruption is happening, when they're receiving instructions, they're afraid because I'm open vote. And so
can you explain that? Because we use this terminology all the time, and I don't think that all our viewers are fully understanding is what the difference is of a public servant versus an open vote.
Yeah. Well, the established public servant, of course, receives a formal employment via the Public Service Commission. Normally, the open vote is supposed to be hired for a specific period in time for a particular project. Now we have open vote workers who are 30 years, 25 years, can't get established. And you ask yourself, the regulation speaks clearly to this. Why isn't the administrative officers addressing this issue? Why is this person still an open vote worker after 10 years, after 15 years? It can't be that project they go on for so long. But there is no desire on the part of in the Ministry of Public Service to fix the problem. And again, I put a lot of blame on public servants like myself. I'm not an administrative officer, but when I say public servants like myself, who are administrative officers, who are supposed to write to the respective ministry, who are supposed to do what they need to do to get these people established and removed as open votes. And it doesn't matter how many memorandum, how many circulars are sent out, that the practice is supposed to be discontinued and people are supposed to be established. It just doesn't get done.
A few years ago, just let me check on this. A few years ago, and I wish I could remember exactly how long ago, there was a recurrent demand by, I think at the time it was NTUCP, for a full list of workers in the public service. Every year we go through the budget, we hear of the great demands on the wage bill and the wage bill. And a part of their reasoning for asking was, give us the full list of public servants and let's see where the bleeding is taking place. Have you ever been able to get that list? And what are your thoughts on being able to receive the full list of workers so that you can know why the wage bill is so big, or where perhaps there are wastages or duplication of roles taking place?
So far, I don't think we have managed to get a list of those individuals and so on, but that is something that I hope that we would be able to do. In addition to what Brother Dean said with regards to open vote workers, we also have the issue of contract officers, people, those who are on contract, because right now we're having, posts like secretaries, right, who are on contracts.
Secretaries on contract.
Right, you understand? So, in certain departments that never had contract officers before, we are finding that now people are going on contract.
And right? why would they do that? They can give them more money, they're more vulnerable. Why would I have a contract worker for a post which is a clerk.
Right. Well, it's mostly at the senior, like secretaries are senior. So yeah, right. So what happened is that it could be from any reason, from maybe the closeness of the relationship.
So a political friend is over the age and retiring, and so to give you a political favor back, I give you a contract for another 5 years.
Right. Or that prior to that person becoming on contract, they were basically able to manipulate that person. So I want that person to remain here because I need to continue to manipulate using that person's position, right? Because they have a certain position that they can maybe, let's say for example, if they want to attack a particular officer, right, junior officer, that person will go ahead and do it. Will carry it out, right? And so that's what
or when you're
sometimes.
legit. By the book, public servant says, I am not allowed to do this, or please document the request that you're giving me. They can go to someone else.
Right, exactly.
As we sit here and I'm thinking, we just signed on to the UMCAT and we're looking at prevention of corruption in public life. And a lot of the movers and the protection for the society actually come from the public service. We saw the Auditor General do her thing, commendable. And in a recent case, I was watching the news where, in a case that's before the court, public officers were writing, say, not sell this land is not sellable. My question is really, not only the negative side of it, because we know what the problem is, but how do we give positive support to a whistleblower in a ministry, the Ministry of Land? Somebody comes out and says, listen, this is what happened here. How do we give that positive support to say, whistleblowers are not only protected but celebrated here? And that's the only way we're going to turn around from the corruption index that where we are to go to a better place. How do we give that positive support?
Yeah, it's a difficult it's a difficult thing because it depends on their confidence in what they believe, what they believe that they can go ahead and be whistleblowers to start with. Right, and their confidence has to lie somewhere in the fact that there will be protection for them, right? But where, right? Because like I said, we can't go to the Public Service Commission, so it's only the court, right? Basically, and I think that more and more because there have been a lot of cases that have gone to court, right? And public officers have won more than have actually been announced. Right, and so we find that there's also where some of the bleeding happens because government has to pay out a lot of, a lot of compensation to officers when they take them to court, and then they lose the case.
Yeah. What was the morale like at the AGM? Are your union members motivated? Are they agitated? Are they hungry for change or progress? But what are you getting a sense from your union members?
Well, they're crying out for help. There are those who are agitated. There are those who want us to speak out more, to act more, to be seen. And if I had to draw a conclusion, I think the majority of members are just frustrated and fed up with the system. However, the question is, like I always say to them, how will we fix it? And at the executive level, we cannot fix it alone. We can only do as much as our members advise us to do and support us in doing. So if we do not have the numbers that we need to bring about the change that we so desperately need to bring about, then we're just basically squeaking and government continues to do as they please, So public officers want change, they're crying out for change, but the challenge for the new president is how does he now lead a council, a freshly minted council.
Speak freely, sir.
But a very competent council. I think that as the first vice president, I think that the individuals that are currently around the table, while everyone might have their own opinions of each and every one of us, I think that I am very pleased with the people that I see around the table. We have legal minds around the table that we can lean on. We have young, vibrant economists we have accountants, we have auditors, and we just have, and then we have the young people who want to get up and start bundling thing like tomorrow. So I like the group that exists, and so the challenge is now for the president, myself as his first vice president, to see how we can use this group to do more in terms of motivating members and giving them that sense of security.
Can I ask a two-pronged question? You say that you're happy with the current group, the composition, but the last poll doesn't seem to reflect that. There has been a change. The past president was changed, so that must be some disquiet in something. Either it's just a choice between better and best, and you were best, or it was simply an indictment on where the leadership of it was going. Where is it? Is it that the change is a reflection of what was not being done, or is it just an improvement on something that was already good?
Well, a little better didn't answer that.
Well, it's your, that was directed directly to you, because you were the first who unseated election.
Yes, I think that the problem, the thing is that the public officers are still confident that the union can do something for them, right? And so they have a lot of trust in my leadership, knowing who I am, knowing who my father is. That weighs a lot, because if the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, then people who know my father will basically know me, right? And
it's a good plug before Father's Day.
I know, right? So, and although both of us we are exactly the same size of everything like my father, but I don't think I'll be able to fit in his shoe. But I'll do my best.
Can I ask one follow-up question though?
Yes.
In terms of, for those people who did like what Ms. Obermeyer was doing, what assurances can you give that the things that she was doing well, that she will continue to improve on?
Right.
And what are those things that she was doing well?
I believe that some of the things that she was doing well would be getting the membership, especially of the council, involved with her discussions and with some of her discussions, right? And so that created some trust within the organization that it's not the president just going off on her own tangent and doing her own thing, right? So things like that I will try to make sure that I continue to do. That's the reason why I requested for
you didn't want to be a sole face.
Yes, right. Because there needs to be inclusion with regards to the executive, and so everyone knows what is going on within the union. The communication process within the union has to be extremely strong, extremely fluid, right? So that the communication, the messages are getting across as quick as possible to our membership, right? And so that creates confidence in them as well.
Now, Gerald, my last question just has to do with this fact. They always say heavy is the head that wears the crown.
Yes.
And as the president and as the leader of this particular union, if we are to reflect on what we've seen other union leaders go through, other organization leaders go through when they're trying to agitate or advocate for a change, it can be difficult. How prepared are you for that part of the role? Because you can have great visions and great ideas of how to move this forward, but sometimes when things get a little bit heated, that's when you're expected to perform at optimum. Right.
Well, like Brother Dean said, I believe that the executive that I have in support are extremely strong, and they are very focused. They are very concentrated in the goals that they want us to accomplish as a union. And I build my strength from theirs. Right. I have my own strength, of course. Extremely strong individual in terms of when I know that I'm going after something that is good and for the benefit of others. I will go into it full bore, no? I will say.
Well, that's going to be tested very shortly.
I know.
Because if I could ask my final question, I want to break it down into three. It's really three questions.
Sure, okay.
But we're coming up into silly season, general elections, and that's when there normally is some pressure, because smart unions realize it's a time when politicians are vulnerable. It's a good time to get increase in pay and get certain things done.
Right.
And so I want to know what your approach is to that reality that's going to be on you, baptized by fire right there. The other thing is the union is almost homeless. I mean, it took away looking to lose your home. And I wanted to know what your approach is to sort of get back a home so that my public service union isn't sleeping underneath the
the bridge.
Underneath the bridge.
Yeah. Well, with regards to the hilltop issue, we are
easier one first.
Right. we are looking at what the legal minds are telling us, right? Our legal advisors and so on, and then we'll move, based on their advice. We have options available, right? And so we are looking at how we can actually work it out that it would be best in the best interest of the union, without, of course, taxing on our resources too much. And so that is something that we are discussing as we go along. We have discussions coming up with the legal advisors, and so that is an issue that is there. It's possible. The Prime Minister has promised certain amount of funds. They have promised, maybe giving us a piece of land.
So it's flagrant concluded that you're going to move. You'll no longer be on a hilltop.
Not necessarily. We have some, the legal.
Have you had a sit down with the Bamapan City Council?
No, not as
you
yet.
Came in office.
Yeah.
Is it scheduled?
No.
Okay.
We don't have anything.
Because
scheduled.
we know the week before the AGM, the previous president was complaining that they couldn't get further communication on the issue.
Right. Right.
So you haven't pursued it further since then?
No, not since then. No,
Okay.
we're still settling in. So we'll actually start to make that move eventually.
Okay.
And regards to the issue with coming up, the upcoming elections and so on. Like I said, I have a lot of confidence in the guidance that will come from the council. It's mainly the council that does a lot of the thinking. They're the think machine, right? And so it doesn't come only from myself. Right, so using the advice of the legal minds and Brother Dean, the second vice and everyone, then we decide on how we can best massage, right, the government into getting right. I know, right? So, but certainly we plan to we plan to engage the government, right, with regards to issues, especially grievances. I personally don't like the grievance issue because it affects families, right? Yes. And these people don't seem to understand that touching one officer's salary has a trickle-down effect to their children, right? And that is something that's very dear to me, right? Because they may be able to still send their kids to school, but that one textbook they might not be able to buy. Yeah. And that would cause that student to fail. And then now you have the effect of their families, because it continues and they don't seem to get it, right? And so it's going to be, I'm hoping that if they continue this way, and I'm not sure if they are seeing it, but eventually I believe that we'll have an implosion with regards to in the government, because public officers are getting fed up. Right, and then they will stop functioning the way how they are, and it actually hurts the entire country.
Absolutely.
Well, Gerald and Dean, we thank you for coming in so early into your term, of course, as this new council, and we look forward to having future conversations as well.
Okay.
Best of luck.
Appreciate it.
We're going to go ahead and take a break, and when we come back, we'll be cooking up a meal for Dad after the break. Stay tuned.